Good morning, everyone. Today, LCS starts the summer split. I wanted to go over my expectations for each team going into this split and then looking over some of the matchups for week one. So I'm going to give myself 1 minute on each team and move on from there. So starting with 100 Thieves, it's the same roster. These guys had very low expectations in spring, and then coming to the summer, you know, I'll be honest, it's probably going to be sort of the same. I think they surprised a lot of people in spring, and a lot of it has to do from the fact that their coaching staff decided to take the direction to make them play less champions, hone on one style, let's perfect, playing these very specific comps, and it worked. It definitely worked. But come playoffs, this is where like you actually have to be more flexible, and they just couldn't. Like they were solved, everyone figured them out, and they just lost. And they're gonna have to change that for summer because teams have more practice under their belts. So this is why they probably will have lower expectations yet again coming into the summer. But they surprise? Maybe, but the best assumption is that they're looking to be middle of the pack, make playoffs, and hopefully they grow enough to contest other teams. Cloud9, they added Thanatos over Fudge. I feel both these players are a little bit the same in terms of how they like to play the game. I mean, they're going to really be disciplined and not be a play in top lane, and that will be a big benefit. Thanatos will be grinding the game more, giving more energy in some ways, you could say, like live towards let's fucking win kind of situation, and that will be great for the rest of the guys. You have Reaper, and Reaper is a big time coach in terms of focusing on like your main strengths, sort of like what 100 Thieves did in spring. And I think they're going to note that AP junglers are really good. So Blabber's great at clearing camps. I mean, he's good at playing a high tempo game. We have great laners, so let's do that style, and I'm sure that's what they're going to do. It's going to be very Korean-esque, comps and viewpoints, and yeah, they should do better than spring. Dignitas, this is a completely different team outside of Isles. They replaced a lot of guys. Jensen's coming over, and I know a lot of people are pretty hyped for this team because if you look at the names, it's like, wow, like these are some big time names. But the reality is, you have no idea how these guys are going to interact with each other. I mean, Spica was okay. Like even on FlyQuest, he was just okay. Like he's had a lot of great rosters, and still has not really done too much. So I'm not really too big on him. Licorice, he's fine. Like Licorice is perfectly fine. Jensen, like he's fine. But both of these guys are not big like solo laners who pull attention and want things to get done. So that's gonna be a little weird. And a lot of the focus would probably be on bot lane. I would say this team would probably aim more towards the middle of the pack. I don't think they're gonna be a top team. And if they can't get their shit together, it'll just be a huge flop. Going into FlyQuest, these guys added Quad over Jensen, and I think this was just a fantastic change. Like, I was really low on Jensen in the first place after like halfway into the split for FlyQuest. I was already kind of like unsure about the idea of him because it's just he doesn't add a lot to the team play strategy. He handles himself. He's still an LCS level mid laner. Like he does handle himself in lane. He does beat a bunch of the mid laners that are in the LCS, but the reality is he just doesn't add a lot to team strategy. Whipple Inspired have been heavily carrying that on FlyQuest, and Quad, as far as I know and I've seen, he will be contributing more and moving more, and this will be a huge boon to the team because before Masu and Pusio were like the main guys who just like trying to play aggro, and it was good for development in a way, but like they also die way too much. So now you have Quad who's going to be helping everyone all around. And this team should definitely be contesting the top of the table again. Great change for FlyQuest. Immortals, same team. It's my team. For us, our biggest struggles was really just playing at a faster speed, like faster pace, closing out games. Like the early games were not actually half bad, especially against like the bulk of like almost all the LCS teams. It really was not bad. There was a lot of winnable games, but really just could not close. The pacing of the games were slow. So then if you make like one critical mistake, the game's just done. Couldn't really out team fight any teams. Like there was issues, right? So, and like obviously people said, well, we're scrim gods. Yeah, sure. Like we won a lot of scrims, but yeah, like the expectations I assume most people will have going into the split is at best making playoffs at the lower end. We can do better than that, but that is probably what everyone's initial expectations are until they prove that that style is not them. Going into energy, same roster, and with these guys, I mean, this is going to be really hard to see because I thought Dokla had a really terrible spring split, and Hui was like kind of inting. I mean, not even just Hui, like literally every single player on energy was just making a ton of unforced errors, inting so much, and it didn't stop. Like it never stopped, and they just they just fell off. And it's hard to imagine this is gonna change unless literally all the players are like, guys, I don't care whatever problems we had in spring, fuck those problems. Let's just go and do our shit like we did before in last summer and win this shit. And if that happens, yeah, they can actually be a top table team. But if it doesn't, it's gonna be really bad. So middle of the pack team expectations, and yeah, they gotta show way more. Shopify. These guys are adding Tomio. Now, Tomio is played with Fake God and Zazel. That will be a nice boon towards him kind of assimilating with this roster, and he has some natural synergy with these players, so that's great, right? Bavoy was amazing, like absolutely amazing, so we'll see if he can continue it, because if he doesn't, this roster's gonna like not do great at all. Like Voy has a lot of like weight on his shoulders. Fake God did not look good, and I don't expect him to continue looking good. And that means you're gonna depend on Tomio, like who's almost kind of like plays like contracts to perform well. And it's a lot's gonna be on how Tomio follows through Zazel's play, how well is Insanity can like level up, and then Bavoy keeping his form. And if they can't do that, they're definitely at the bottom table. Just a fact. Team Liquid, everyone's favorite team because they beat Fnatic. Yeah, their expectations, of course, are top of the table, first place. You know, FlyQuest is adding quad, so they have a fresh player. Dignitas is a complete set new of players that have to like figure their stuff out. Cloud9, you know, they added a new player. It's in a lane that maybe doesn't matter so much per se when it comes to adding a new player, as long as he does his job, plays well. And because of that, Team Liquid should be towards the top. They just play a really good team game. Like, I mean, they know how to play around each other, help each other. They progress, they fight in relatively good ways, honestly. I mean, they almost like took down T1 in some sense. Like, they had winning games against them. They just couldn't close out. And if they can continue from that, yeah, these guys are a legit threat. They're going to be tough to beat, and I don't know what to say. Yeah, you should just say that they're going to be at the top of the table. So those are all my expectations for these teams. All under 1 minute. There's some things I've missed, of course, but yeah, I would say just imagine Team Liquid, FlyQuest, Cloud9. It's the same teams, you know, competing towards the top. You know, 100 Thieves, Immortals, Shopify. You know, these are teams that are all playing for the lower seed playoff spots. Energy actually might be in that same category. And then you have Dignitas, who's just a complete wild card, where if they don't vibe, if they do not figure out their style correctly, it's going to be terrible. Because like I said, I think a lot of it's going to be based on them playing into ball lane, because Licorice and Jensen are not big, you know, like polars. A lot of that gives into Spica deciding what he wants to do, but I think Spica thrives better when he has laners telling him what to do. So yeah, not the biggest expectations for Dignitas. And in the end of the day, it might be literally 5 teams. These 5 teams all playing on a equal playing field. We will have to see. And again, they're also semi wildcard depending on, you know, their mentality change. Now, the matchups we have coming into this week, you know, we're starting off today, 3 p.m. Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. I mean, this, keep in mind, every team gets to play the other team once this split. It's not a double round robin. You get only one shot to beat that team, have your strategy, have your ideal, picks. And I think this actually is a good opportunity for FlyQuest to win. I say that because the meta is in a spot where, clearing junglers are good. They're definitely good. And that's what Inspired is good at. And the meta is not half bad for quad either. And it's probably not necessarily the best for bot lane, necessarily, but I think those little parts could contribute towards a greater chance of victory because Umpty was a good fight creator. He liked instigating fights and creating moments. And I think like champions like a Nidalee would be fantastic on him. I mean, if you look at LCK and how they use Nidalee, it's a lot of invade heavy style, and that's great for him. Karthus, not really as much, in his forte. Talia still, again, doesn't seem too much like his kind of pick. Trist, great for APA. I don't think APA would play Corki well, which is also another big time pick. And yeah, I don't know. For me, it just seems like it's definitely a good opportunity for FlyQuest to beat them. If Team Liquid comes in and they just do the same style, which they can do, by the way. It's not like they can't do that style. It's just not as strong as the other style. And like Core JJ is still playing really well because, yeah, if Core JJ is on point, I mean, probably could just pack it up. It's probably it's probably not possible to win. But yeah, I think this matchup does have a chance to be a FlyQuest victory, only because, again, if they have the right draft that lets Inspired excel and be like a strong point, yeah, they can win. If Team Liquid comes in the same form that they had at MSI, probably not. Cloud9 versus Dignitas, I think this is just a Cloud9 win. Like, I don't really see Dignitas, especially on their first series, I don't think they were going to get all their shit together, for one, to be able to properly contest C9 already. I think Cloud9, like I said, I think fitting in Thanatos, who already had a style pretty similar to Fudge, is not going to be difficult at all. And they also did a Korean bootcamp, as far as I know, which is going to be a huge boon to them. Everyone can grind their asses off over there and get their shit together. Yeah, and I've listened to Thanatos' English, seems actually pretty decent. And it looks like he's vibing with the team. It's probably just a Cloud9 win. I don't think there's really too much to look into on that. For 100 Thieves versus Energy, this will be a big game. Again, like these two series on Sunday will be big time series because it really we're all fighting for those playoff spots. And since, again, like I said, you play against these teams only one time. For instance, Immortals versus Shopify, like if you're imagining both these teams at the bottom of the table, yeah, you gotta beat all the weak teams, to have a shot at it. So for 100 Thieves versus Energy, it's the same case. This one, I'm not 100% sure. The other ones, I feel like, again, FlyQuest, Team Liquid, this could be a pretty competitive series, assuming TL is not, in form. Cloud9 versus Dignitas, I think it's just a Cloud9 win. 100 Thieves versus Energy, there's just so much variability in terms of just, how these teams can go. Also, I heard that there might be a sub for 100 Thieves going into this week, and if that's true, then I would say that Energy probably just wins. And that's it. If they don't have a sub, so if 100 Thieves doesn't have a sub, but like I said, I'm almost certain that someone is sick on their team, I'm not going to say who, and this required them to do some shenanigans, so it'll be difficult. If not, then I don't know. If not, I feel like if Energy is playing the same way, 100 Thieves will actively fight you and outplay you, outskill you, and that can lead them to winning. but it is a best of 3, so it's like Energy has a chance to kind of recoup and get their shit together. So I think it's like a 50-50 toss up if they're both even strength. If it's a a sub fill in, that's probably like 70-30, 80-20 on Energy side. Immortals versus Shopify, both these teams will be full strength, and the main thing is just that, I think just having a good draft is going to matter the most here in the end of the day. Like, I think Shopify has to really focus on having the right picks for Fake God so he can actually excel. If he does not have the right picks, he'll kind of just lose and become a problem for his own team. For Insanity, he has a lot of weird picks that he can play in the end of the day, but he really needs to just stick towards like mostly meta stuff, like not veer off too much because he needs to improve as a player as well. And if you keep playing these other picks, like, yeah, it's fine because it may lead to some wins, but like you do that style always, like you're not going anywhere. And having the best pick for Fake God to just hold his own, and then having a comp which Tomio can steer and has played will probably be your like main goals in the end of the day. Like, Tomio likes to play carries, he likes to clear, he has played Seju and Maokai, though I think those two champions are not necessarily his greatest champions, but he was able to play them. And, I think him just being on a carry would be a lot more suitable to him, and having a mid laner who can kind of enable, get vision, assist and invades, and of course having a powerhouse bot lane. Like, that's going to be what their main draft goals are, and if they could get them, and they play to the level that they can play, then they can win. Immortals, this team can be good, if they have the right draft, right? That's how I kind of see it. And Castle and Mass definitely show that they can be very capable. And there's a lot of champions this team has tried. In the end of the day, tried a lot of comps, different champs, and it's really, like I said, just finding the right draft and being able to take down and make sure that Fake God has, if he does not have that matchup, like, Castle will just win. We have a reasonable mid matchup, Mask will do fine. And then for bot lane specifically, again, this will be important. No random deaths, progressing the game, and actually looking to finish in the right ways. And I want to say it's 60-40. It's probably 60-40, maybe probably 60-40 in favor of Immortals. I want to say 70-30 in favor of Immortals over Shopify. And that's, again, mostly because that they're adding a fresh player who has not played LCS. So, and it's not just a fresh player. Like, it's not like Tomio was like some god jungler in NACL either, but he won't be like terrible. I would say that he won't be terrible. And if with the right environment, then he will actually play to what he can be. So it's probably like 60-40 Immortals favor. But I'm not going to go any further on that. And that's about it, guys. I'll admit, I definitely drew on a little bit when it came to talking about these matchups. But I think if you're looking to watch any for this week, the most interesting ones are going to be the first one, Team Liquid versus FlyQuest, and then you're going to be interested in seeing Immortals versus Shopify. I think this is whatever, and this may become whatever depending on who plays that day. So, thanks for watching, guys, and let's enjoy this LCS season.